So the second part of the newest season of Baki just dropped, making this the end of the third part of the series. And man, I don't even know where to start with this because so much happened, and the only word I can really describe this season as is insane. And honestly, I think so far from the series, this has been my favorite season. Now, if you haven't seen the new season, I do want to give a quick spoiler warning because I will be going over a lot of important moments from this season. But with all that being said, let's get to the first arc, which is the Pickle arc. So, the Pickle arc. This has been one of the most anticipated arcs for the entire series, especially considering the fact it's been about 2 years since the last season of the show came out. So us fans were hungry for another season, and Netflix gave us a full course meal with just this arc alone. Anyways though, the first thing I want to talk about is Pickle as a character. Up to this point in the series, he's by far like the craziest concept for a character. Literally, they bring a caveman from the Jurassic period back to life. Like, he pretty much got isekai, but because of that, he still has the mindset of a caveman, which means he has absolutely no morals. Like, for example, there's a scene near the beginning of the arc where Pickle is first being shown on TV, and one of the reporters tries to ask him a question, and Pickle does something pretty wild. Let's just say he performs a version of PP training that I like to personally call the redo of healer technique, and all of this is on national TV. Like, yo, this show just gets crazier and crazier. Anyways though, Pickle overall is pretty entertaining to watch, even though he has like no actual spoken dialogue, and each of his thoughts are told to us through a narrator. But with Pickle out the way, I now want to talk about the fights. The fights this arc were just straight up wild, and also some of the most brutal fights we've had in the whole show. And most of this is because of Pickle himself. Once the news about his existence was made public, everybody wanted a piece of his pickle. Pause, bro, what? Anyways though, his fighting style is like that of a wild animal, and in some of his fights he even resorts to eating his opponent. On top of this, he has really good defense, and is overall just very unpredictable, making us question just how is anybody gonna beat him. But overall, each of these fights were pretty fun to watch. His fights with Retsu and Kasumi gave us some great moments from both characters. His fight with Jack, even though it had some pretty questionable moments, it was still funny as hell to watch, especially after we find out he tried to fight Pickle again, only to just lose a second time. And of course, Pickle's fight with Baki, and Baki was doing pretty well until Pickle used this weird transformation, straight up looking like Tagoro at 100%, and it was pretty much a wrap for Baki at that point. And that's basically all the major fights of this arc. No one was able to beat Pickle, and the arc basically ends with Pickle giving Stridum the T-Rex head, then he just disappears, and now there's just a caveman running around Tokyo. Moving away from the fights though, I can honestly see why manga readers were hyping this arc up for so long. This is definitely like one of my favorite arcs from the show so far. Just the concept of this arc and all the reasons I mentioned before is why this arc is so fun to watch. And mind y'all, this is only like the first half of the season. There's still 2 more arcs to cover after this. So the second half starts off with the Warrior Struggle arc. This arc is build up for the next one, which contains the most important fight of the series so far, being the Yujiro vs Baki fight round 2. And pretty much this arc is just a training arc, and it focuses on both Baki and Retsu. After losing to Pickle, Retsu gets into boxing, and we see his journey throughout the arc. But since Retsu's good at martial arts and is already one of the strongest characters, he pretty much washes everybody he goes up against. The fights are still pretty decent though, and overall I do like the direction they're taking Retsu's character on. But the real highlights of this arc come from Baki and his training, because these are the parts where the arc gets really wild. For example, one of the things Baki does to prepare for the fight is use a cockroach as a personal trainer to help him learn a new move. He literally has dialogue with it and everything. There's also another scene where Baki's using his imagination training, and he basically imagines Yujiro, and the two clash to each other so hard that it causes a small earthquake. And these are just a couple examples. There are a bunch more examples, but the craziest one to me has to be with Yujiro and Obama, who I actually forgot to mention appeared in the previous arc, which I actually find funny because literally last season Bush was still president. But anyways, Obama goes to Japan to discuss some things, specifically the Yujiro and Baki fight that's about to happen. And Obama shows off this jar of coal dust he has, and it's basically to show that he's in oath with Yujiro. And as they're talking, out of nowhere, Yujiro just pops up into the office, and he takes the jar, crushes it, and turns it into a cross. Literally with his bare hands, a perfectly shaped cross, and makes Obama repeat the oath. Just straight up embarrassed him in front of everybody in the room. Anyways though, straying away from all the craziness this arc had to offer, we get a lot of moments between Baki and Yujiro, which actually don't really include them fighting. Instead, it's just them drinking coffee together. But these interactions are also just build up for the next arc, which will go deeper into the two characters' relationship. Moving away from this though, there's really only one fight that Baki has in this arc, if you could really even call it a fight, and it's against Shiba, who we haven't even really seen get any action since the Maximum Tournament arc. And yeah, Baki pretty much whooped this dude. Shiba did have him for a moment though, but then Baki pulled out that cockroach move and it was game over. And that's pretty much the Warrior Struggle arc. Overall was a good arc. The Retsu stuff was pretty good, and the Baki stuff was even better. And it may not be as good as the Pickle arc overall, but it definitely did its job when it came to building up stuff for the next arc, which I'm gonna say now is probably my favorite arc in the entire series.
なあ、親父。失礼いたします。こうすりゃいいのかい？それともこうか。
So, the strongest father and child quarrel arc. The fight we've all been waiting for over 100 episodes now. And did it live up to the hype? Well, after watching the arc, I can safely say that this is one of my favorite anime fights of all time. This arc is 7 episodes long, and the fight is literally every episode. And so much happens in this fight that I honestly don't even know where to start with it. The fight starts in a hotel, where they're just completely destroying this building. And then it quickly shifts to them going outside, where they gain a huge audience. And as the fight goes on, it slowly turns from a small crowd to like most of the world watching this fight. Even Pickle is watching, and at one point he actually tries to join in, but this upsets Baki and even punches Pickle, knocking out one of his teeth, showing us just how serious Baki and Yujiro are for this fight. Anyways though, Baki and Yujiro were pretty even throughout this entire fight. As a matter of fact, this is like the first time we've seen Yujiro try this much against an opponent, or well, at least without the opponent getting their ass whipped immediately, because Baki was getting some really good hits on Yujiro, and it goes to show just how much stronger he's gotten since the first fight. Last arc I mentioned that we were going to go more into Yujiro and Baki's relationship, and this fight is pretty much their way of bonding with each other. And throughout the fight, Yujiro talks a lot about how he's proud of Baki and compliments him on his strength. And honestly, this is like the first time Yujiro has spoken this well about someone. And you could say, well, duh, it's his own son. But this is the same man that was pummeling said son into the ground at the beginning of the series. Just saying. But these type of moments that we got from the fight were kind of wholesome, but in like a weird Baki sort of wholesome. Because these two are bonding over beating the shit out of each other. Which, this isn't even the craziest thing to come out of this fight. Literally, at the very beginning of this fight, Yujiro throws himself and Baki down from the top floor of the hotel, and they somehow survive this drop. There's a part where Yujiro beats Baki so hard that Baki starts pissing himself. Actually, this happened like a couple times during this fight. Anyways though, after this happens, Yujiro's dad pops up as a ghost to try and motivate Baki. So we learn about his backstory and whatnot, and we find out about this move he made called Dress, which allows the user to pretty much use their opponent as nunchucks. And Yujiro uses this move on Baki, and just look at how he's holding him, and he just starts swinging him around, destroying a car. There's also another moment near the end of the fight where the two sit down with each other and they start eating imaginary miso soup. Like they're actually eating it, and everyone in the crowd is actually able to see the imaginary food. Right after this though, the fight basically ends, and Yujiro gives the strongest man in the world title to Baki, but Baki gives the victory of the fight to Yujiro. So I guess it's like a win for both characters, though I still think Yujiro is the strongest in the show. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this fight. Like I said earlier, this is my favorite fight from the show so far. This fight was such a roller coaster of events, but it had everything you'd want from a Baki fight. It had great action, a lot of build up, and a bunch of crazy ass moments. Like, this fight was pretty much Baki in a nutshell, and all of that is why I love this fight so much. And I think it makes a good conclusion for Baki's most impactful but most insane season. Personally, I feel like from this point on, the show's just gonna get crazier and crazier as it goes. And for what I've heard from manga readers, I might not be wrong in saying that.
史上最強の親子喧嘩ここに終了
Anyways though, with all that being said, I think I'm going to end the video here. This part of Baki has been my favorite one so far, and I'm glad I was able to make a video about it. Also, I know it's been a few weeks since I last uploaded. I've been pretty busy with IRL stuff, and this video took a while to make, but I still hope y'all enjoyed. Thanks to all of you who watched this video all the way through. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the next video.
and silky smooth.